Document, Part 3. The jungle seemed to grow darker as the Varnak vanguard and Alex pushed deeper into its heart. The air was thick with humidity, making it hard to breathe, and every step felt like a battle against the planet itself. Vines hung from towering trees, their leaves forming a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. Strange glowing fungi clung to the trunks, casting an eerie light on the forest floor. The team moved cautiously, their weapons drawn in senses. Alex led the way, his one good hand gripping a long, jagged piece of metal he'd scavenged earlier. Despite his missing arm, he moved with surprising agility, weaving through the undergrowth without hesitation. His familiarity with the terrain was evident in the way he avoided patches of quicksand-like mud and steered clear of areas marked by faint claw marks on the trees. Behind him, Leora Kane followed closely, her plasma blade ready at her side. Mira Solis brought up the rear, clutching her rifle tightly, her eyes darting nervously at every sound. For hours, they trudged onward, the oppressive silence broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant animal calls. Then, suddenly Alex stopped, raising his hand to signal the others. "Hold up," he whispered, crouching low. Ahead of them, the ground dipped into a shallow ravine, its bottom littered with bones and discarded shells. In the center stood a massive creature, Krillian at 6 legs, clicking softly as it tore apart the carcass of some unfortunate prey. The Krillian was even larger than Alex had described, its body covered in thick, armored scales that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Its head was elongated, filled with rows of sharp teeth that glinted as it fed.
A long,
whip-like tails lashed behind it, each tipped with a venomous barb. The sight sent a shiver down Mira's spine, but Alex remained calm, his expression unreadable. "We need to go around, Jorok," Ven muttered, his mandibles twitching in irritation. "That thing will tear us apart if we get too close." "Agreed," Leora said, scanning the area for an alternate route. But Alex shook his head. "No time," he said quietly. "If we backtrack, we'll lose half a day. And trust me, you don't want to be caught out here after dark." "So what do you suggest?" Rinkale asked, his deep voice tinged with skepticism. "We just walk past it." Alex smirked faintly. "Not exactly. Distracted." Jorok scoffed. "Are you insane? That thing will kill whoever tries." "Not if we're smart about it," Alex replied. He pointed to a cluster of glowing mushrooms nearby. "Those things are toxic. If we can get it to charge at us and crush them, the spores will disorient it long enough for us to slip by." Leora exchanged a glance with her team. It was a risky plan, but they didn't have many options. Finally, she nodded. "All right, how do we do this? I'll draw its attention," Alex said. Before anyone could protest, he stepped forward, grabbing a rock and hurling it toward the Krillian. The stone hit the creature's side with a dull thud, causing it to pause mid-bite. Slowly, it turned its head, its black, soulless eyes locking onto Alex. "Alex?" Mira hissed, panic rising in her voice. What are you doing?" "Stick to the plan,"
Alex
shouted back, backing away slowly. The Krillian let out a guttural roar and charged, its legs moving with terrifying speed. Alex sprinted toward the mushrooms, dodging swipes from the creature's tails. At the last second, he dove to the side, rolling out of the way as the Krillian slammed into the patch of fungi. A cloud of glowing spores erupted into the air, enveloping the beast. The Krillian stumbled, shaking its head violently as the toxins took effect. Its movements became erratic, and it let out another deafening roar before collapsing to the ground, temporarily incapacitated. The team wasted no time, rushing past the writhing creature while keeping a safe distance. When they reached the other side of the ravine, they paused to catch their breath. "That was reckless," Jorok snapped, glaring at Alex. "You could have gotten yourself killed." "But I didn't," Alex shot back, brushing dirt off his jacket. "And now we're closer to those minerals, right?" Leora raised a hand to silence the argument. "Enough. We've got bigger problems ahead. Let's keep moving." As they continued, the jungle grew denser, the trees taller and more twisted. The air was filled with the hum of unseen insects and the distant sound of water rushing somewhere beyond the foliage. After another hour of walking, they came across a narrow stream cutting through the forest.
Oh.
The water was clear, but cold, and Alex knelt down to drink, scooping it up with his hand. "This is a good spot to rest," Leora said, signaling the team to set up a temporary camp. They spread out, gathering firewood, and setting up perimeter sensors to detect any approaching threats. Mira sat near the stream, cleaning her wound from earlier, while Alex leaned against a tree, watching her intently. "You're tougher than you look," he said after a moment. Mira looked up, surprised. "Thanks, I guess."
That's
"Probably a compliment." "It is," Alex confirmed with a small smile. "Most people would have frozen back there. You held your own." Mira shrugged modestly.
I see.
"I mean, look at you. You've been surviving out here for years. What chance do I have compared to that?"
Alex.
Frowned, his tone softening. "Survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about keeping going, no matter how bad things get. You've already proven you can do that." Before Mira could respond, a loud cracking noise echoed through the forest. Everyone froze, turning toward the source of the sound. Massive tree near the edge of the clearing began to topple, its roots torn loose from the ground. Mira screamed, scrambling backward as the trunk hurtled toward her. Without thinking, Alex sprang into action. He lunged forward, tackling Myra out of the way, just as the tree crashed to the ground where she had been sitting. The impact sent a shockwave through the area, knocking over smaller plants and sending birds scattering into the sky. For a moment, everything was still. Then Mira pushed herself up, coughing as she tried to catch her breath. "Alex, you saved me," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't mention it," Alex replied, wincing as he stood up. Despite his bravado, the effort of saving Mira had clearly taken a toll on him. His face was pale, and sweat dripped down his forehead. "You all right?" Leora asked, approaching them quickly. "Fine," Alex muttered, though his clenched jaw suggested otherwise. "Just give me a minute." Rin examined the fallen tree, his brow furrowed. "That wasn't natural," he said grimly. "Something caused this. Predators?" Jorok asked, gripping his weapon tightly. "Or traps," Alex added, his gaze sweeping the area. Part of the jungle is known for sinkholes and unstable ground. Could have been a warning.
Ow.
"A warning from what?" Mira asked nervously. No one answered. The implication hung heavy in the air. The jungle itself might be alive, reacting to their presence in ways they couldn't fully understand. Leora turned to Alex, her expression serious. "How much farther to the mineral deposits?"
not.
"Far," Alex replied. "Maybe another hour if we keep moving. But we need to be careful. Whatever's out here doesn't want us sticking around." The group packed up quickly, their earlier exhaustion replaced by a renewed sense of urgency. As they pressed on, the jungle seemed to grow even darker, the glowing fungi dimmer. The temperature dropped slightly, and a chill settled over the team. Every step felt heavier, as if the planet was resisting their progress. Finally they reached their destination, a rocky outcrop jutting out of the jungle floor. Embedded in the rocks were clusters of glowing crystals, pulsating with an otherworldly light. The sight was mesmerizing, but Alex approached them cautiously, his expression wary. "These are the minerals," he said, pointing to the largest cluster. "But be careful. Like I said before, they're unstable." Leora stepped forward, pulling out a scanner to analyze the crystals. As she did, a low rumble echoed through the ground beneath their feet. The team froze, exchanging uneasy glances. "What was that?" Mira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Alex admitted, his eyes narrowing. "But I don't think it's friendly." The rumbling grew louder, accompanied by the sound of shifting earth. Suddenly the ground cracked open, revealing a network of tunnels below. From the darkness emerged a swarm of insect-like creatures, their bodies covered in chitinous armor and their eyes glowing red. They scuttled forward, clicking their mandibles menacingly. "Fall back," Leora ordered, raising her weapon. The team opened fire, their shots lighting up the gloom as they fought to hold off the advancing swarm. Alex grabbed a burning branch from their makeshift torch and swung it wildly, driving back the creatures closest to him. "Behind you," Mira shouted, firing a burst of plasma at a creature lunging toward Alex. He ducked just in time, nodding his thanks before continuing the fight. Despite their efforts, the swarm kept coming, overwhelming their defenses. Just when it seemed like they were about to be overrun, Alex noticed something: a large boulder perched precariously on the edge of the outcrop. With a grunt of effort, he climbed up and shoved it with all his strength. The boulder tumbled down, crushing several of the creatures and creating a barrier that slowed the swarm's advance. "Go," Alex yelled, jumping down and joining the retreat. The team didn't hesitate, running back toward the relative safety of the jungle. Behind them, the creatures hissed and clicked angrily, but they didn't follow. When they finally stopped to regroup, the adrenaline began to wear off, leaving them shaken but alive. Mira slumped. Document. Part 1. The Varnock Vanguard's sleek dropship sliced through the thick atmosphere of Epsilon 7, its hull glowing orange from the intense heat of re-entry. The planet below was a swirling mass of greens and browns, dotted with jagged mountain ranges and endless stretches of dense jungle. It was a world that seemed alive, pulsing with danger at every turn. Captain Leora Kane sat in the cockpit, her sharp eyes scanning the readouts on the console in front of her. She had heard the stories everyone had. Epsilon 7 wasn't just another mission. It was a death sentence for those who underestimated it. Behind her, the rest of the squad prepared for landing. Lieutenant Jorak then double-checked his plasma rifle, his mandibles twitching in irritation as he muttered something under his breath about the planet's reputation. Private Myra Solis adjusted the straps of her backpack, her young face pale but determined. The rookie was on her first deployment, and while she tried to hide it, the tension in her shoulders betrayed her nerves. Across from her, Sergeant Rin. Kale cracked his knuckles and smirked, clearly enjoying the chaos of pre-mission jitters around him. The ship shuddered violently as it broke through the final layer of clouds, revealing the harsh reality of Epsilon 7 below. Towering trees stretched toward the sky like skeletal fingers, their twisted branches clawing at the air. Thick mist clung to the ground, hiding whatever horrors lurked beneath. The dropship's engines roared as it descended into a small clearing, kicking up clouds of dust and debris. When the ramp finally lowered, the team stepped out cautiously. Weapons drawn, the air was heavy, almost suffocating, filled with the scent of damp earth and something metallic. The sounds of the jungle surrounded them: chirps, growls, and rustling. Leaves all blending together into an unsettling symphony. Leora took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping over the alien landscape. "Stay alert," she said, her voice calm but firm. "This place doesn't forgive mistakes." As the team began setting up their base camp, movement caught Mira's eye near the edge of the clearing. At first, she thought it was an animal, but then she saw it: a figure stumbling out of the shadows of the jungle. It was humanoid, though barely recognizable under layers of dirt and grime. One sleeve of its tattered jacket flapped uselessly against its side, revealing a stump where an arm should have been. The figure stopped a few feet away, leaning heavily on what looked like a crude walking stick made from a broken branch. "Who are you?" Jorak demanded, raising his weapon instinctively. His tone was sharp, distrustful. The stranger raised his remaining hand in a gesture of surrender, his voice raspy but steady. "Name's Alex Carter," he said. "I'm guessing you're not here for the scenery?" Leora stepped forward, lowering her weapon slightly. "What are you doing here?" she asked, studying him closely. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was something about him: a resilience in his stance, a defiance in his eyes that intrigued her. Alex chuckled dryly, glancing down at his missing limb. "Surviving," he said simply. "Same as I've been doing for the past 3 years. It got everyone's attention." 3 years? On this planet? It was unheard of. Most people didn't last 3 days. Leora exchanged a glance with Jorak, who looked skeptical. "How did you lose your arm?" she asked, keeping her tone neutral. Alex's expression darkened, and for a moment he didn't answer. Then, with a shrug, he said, "Got into a fight. With a Krillian. Big bastard. 6 legs, teeth like daggers. Didn't exactly end well for me." He tapped the stump of his arm lightly. "But hey, I lived. That counts for something, right?" Mira winced at the casual way he spoke about such a horrific injury. Even Rin, who prided himself on being unshakable, looked uneasy. "You survived losing a limb on this planet," Rin asked, his deep voice laced with disbelief. "That's impressive." "Not really," Alex replied with a shrug. "It's just stubborn, I guess. And lucky. Mostly stubborn." Despite his nonchalant attitude, it was clear that surviving on Epsilon 7 had taken a toll on him. His clothes were patched together haphazardly, and scars crisscrossed his exposed skin. Yet there was a strength in him, a quiet determination that hinted at more than just luck or stubbornness. Leora found herself intrigued. There was something about this man, this human, that didn't add up. "What do you know about this planet?" she asked, folding her arms across her chest. "Anything useful?" Alex tilted his head, considering the question. "Useful depends on what you're looking for," he said slowly. "If you're after food, there's plenty if you don't mind eating bugs bigger than your head. If you're after shelter, good luck finding anything that won't collapse on top of you during one of the storms. And if you're after trouble—" He paused, smirking faintly. "Well, let's just say Epsilon 7 has no shortage of that," Dorok snorted clearly, unimpressed. "We're not here for a guided tour," he said. "We have our own objectives." "Oh, I figured," Alex said, nodding toward the advanced equipment strapped to their backs. "You're hunters, collectors. Probably after the mineral deposits." "Right." Leora's eyes narrowed. "How do you know about the minerals?" Alex shrugged again, leaning casually on his makeshift cane. "Word gets around, even out here. Besides, anyone who knows anything about Epsilon 7 knows about the rocks. They glow in the dark, make weird noises when you hit them. Hard to miss." His knowledge unnerved her, but she kept her composure. "Do you know where we can find them?" she asked. "I might," Alex said, his tone deliberately vague. "Depends on whether you plan to blow yourselves up trying to mine them. Those things aren't exactly stable." Jorek scoffed. "We'll take our chances." "Suit yourself," Alex said with a shrug. "But don't say I didn't warn you." For a moment, no one spoke. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Finally, Leora broke the silence. "Why are you helping us?" she asked, her voice softer now. "You don't owe us anything." Alex hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the dense foliage behind him. For a brief second, there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Loneliness, maybe, or longing. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "Let's just say I've been alone out here long enough," he said quietly. "And call me crazy. But having backup for once doesn't sound so bad." Leora studied him for a moment longer before nodding. "All right," she said. "You can stay for now. But if you try anything—" "I get it," Alex interrupted, holding up his hand. "No funny business. Got it." As the team returned to setting up camp, Alex wandered off to the edge of the clearing, staring into the jungle. He didn't trust them, not completely, but they were better company than the monsters lurking in the shadows. For the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, these strangers could help him find a way off this cursed planet. Back at the camp, Mira watched him curiously. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" she asked Leora in a low voice. Leora glanced at Alex's silhouette. "Against the fading light, doesn't matter," she said. "What matters is whether he can help us survive this place." And with that, the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the jungle into darkness. The night came alive with eerie sounds, a reminder of the dangers that awaited them. But for now, they had a guide and, perhaps an unlikely ally. Document Part 2, the first night on Epsilon 7, passed uneasily. The alien marines of the Varnock Vanguard took turns keeping watch, their weapons trained on the dense jungle that surrounded their makeshift camp. Every rustle of leaves or distant growl sent a jolt of tension through the group. Despite their advanced technology and combat training, there was an unshakable feeling that they were being watched by something far more dangerous than they could imagine. Alex Carter sat by the edge of the clearing, staring into the darkness. He had offered to take a shift on watch, but Leora Kane had declined, insisting he needed rest after his long journey to find them. Still, sleep felt impossible. The jungle's constant noise reminded him too much of the nights he'd spent alone, fighting off predators and trying to stay alive. Instead, He leaned back against a tree stump, absently rubbing the scarred skin where his arm used to be. Mira Solis approached him cautiously, her steps soft against the damp ground. "You don't have to sit out here alone," she said, her voice hesitant but kind. "We've got enough people watching." Alex glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "I'm not exactly great company," he replied. "Besides, I like the quiet." Mira frowned, sitting down beside him. "It doesn't look quiet to me," she said, gesturing toward the restless jungle. "Sounds like a war zone out there." He chuckled dryly. "You get used to it," he said. "After a while you learn which sounds mean trouble and which ones don't." "And how do you know?" she asked, curiosity getting the better of her. "Experience," Alex said simply. "Lots of bad decisions early on taught me what not to do." Mira hesitated, unsure if she should press further. Finally she asked, "How did you survive losing your arm? I mean, most people wouldn't make it through something like that." Alex didn't answer right away. His gaze drifted toward the fire in the center of the camp, its flickering light casting shadows across his face. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, tinged with a mix of bitterness and pride. "It wasn't easy," he admitted. "When it happened, I thought I was done for. Bled out pretty badly before I managed to patch myself up. Spent days crawling around, barely conscious. Thought about giving up more times than I can count." "But you didn't," Mira said softly. "No," Alex agreed. "Something kept me going. Maybe stubbornness, maybe stupidity. Hard to tell. The difference sometimes." He paused, looking at her. "But once I realized I wasn't going to die, I figured I might as well keep living. Made tools, figured out how to hunt one-handed. Learned to adapt." "That's incredible," Mira said, shaking her head in disbelief. "I don't think I could handle even half of what you've been through." Alex smirked faintly. "Don't sell yourself short," he said. "People are tougher than they think when they have to be." Before Mira could respond, a loud crash echoed from deeper in the jungle. Everyone snapped to attention, weapons raised. Jorok Ven moved quickly to the edge of the clearing, scanning the darkness with his enhanced visor. "What was that?" he demanded, his mandibles clicking in irritation. "Could be anything," Alex said, standing up. "Falling tree, maybe? Or something bigger. Or someone testing us," Leora added, her hand resting on the hilt of her plasma blade. She turned to Alex. "Any idea what we're dealing with?" He shrugged. "What to say without seeing it? We could be a Krilllian or worse." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had all read the reports about Epsilon 7's wildlife, but hearing Alex talk about it made the danger feel more real. "Let's hope it's just a tree," Rin muttered, tightening his grip on his rifle. For several tense minutes, nothing else happened, as the jungle fell silent again, as if holding its breath. Slowly the team relaxed, though no one returned to their tasks or settled back down. The interruption had left them all on edge. Later that evening, after the others had gone to bed, Leora found Alex sitting by the fire, poking at the embers with a stick. She joined him, sitting cross-legged on the ground. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Leora broke the silence. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. "I've met humans before," she explained. "Most wouldn't last a week on this planet. You've survived 3 years and lost a limb in the process. That's unusual." Alex sighed, tossing the stick into the flames. "Maybe I'm just lucky. Or maybe there's more to your story," Leora pressed gently. "Where did you come from before you ended up here?" Alex hesitated, his jaw tightening. He hadn't talked about his past in years, not since the crash. But something about Leora's calm demeanor made him want to open up. "I was part of a research team," he said finally. "Sent here to study the planet's ecosystem. We crashed during a storm.
Ow.
Most of the crew died instantly. The rest didn't last long." "What happened to you?" Leora asked. "I woke up injured, miles away from the wreckage," Alex said. "No supplies, no backup. Just me and whatever I could scavenge. Took me months to figure out how to survive. And then I was already missing my arm." Leora nodded slowly, processing the information. "And you haven't tried to leave since?" Alex corrected. "But Epsilon 7 doesn't let go easily. Every time I thought I'd found a way out, something stopped me. Storms, predators, malfunctioning, Giryu, name it. There must be a reason you stayed, Leora said. Why not give up? Alex stared into the fire, his expression thoughtful. At first I wanted revenge, he admitted. On the planet, on fate, on whoever decided sending us here was a good idea. But over time, it became about proving something to myself, I guess. Showing that I could beat this place, even if it killed me trying. Leora studied him carefully. There was a depth to his words, a resilience that went beyond mere survival. She respected that. Could use someone like you, she said after a moment. Someone who understands this planet better than we ever will. Alex laughed bitterly. Trust me, you don't want to end up like me, he said. Dead. Stuck on a rock no one cares about. It's not about ending up like you, Leora countered. It's about working together. You'll help us navigate this place, and we'll help you get off it. The offer caught Alex off guard. For years, he'd given up hope of leaving Epsilon 7. The idea of escaping, not just surviving, truly leaving was almost too much to comprehend. Yet there was sincerity in Leora's voice, promise he couldn't ignore. I'll think about it, he said finally, avoiding her gaze. The next morning, the team prepared to move deeper into the jungle. Their goal was to locate one of the mineral deposits Alex had mentioned, hoping it would lead them closer to understanding the planet's secrets. As they packed up their gear, Jorak approached Alex. His tone gruff, but less hostile than before. You said those minerals aren't stable, Jorak began. What exactly does that mean? Alex adjusted the straps of his backpack, his expression grim. They react weirdly to energy fields, he explained. Too much exposure and they start breaking down. Sometimes they explode. Other times, they release radiation strong enough to fry anything nearby. Jorak frowned. Great. So we're walking into a death trap. Pretty much, Alex confirmed. But if you're careful, you can avoid setting them off. Just don't hit them. With anything sharp or shiny, as the group set out, the jungle seemed to close in around them. The air grew heavier, thick with humidity and the scent of decay. Strange plants with bioluminescent blooms lined their path, casting an eerie glow in the dim light. Every step felt like a gamble, each shadow hiding potential danger. At one point, Mira stopped abruptly, pointing to the ground. What's that? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Everyone froze. In the dirt ahead, a series of claw marks stretched across the trail, deep enough to suggest whatever made them was massive. Alex knelt down, running his fingers along the edges of the marks. Krillian, he said quietly. Big one. How recent? Leora asked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. Hard to say, Alex replied, but fresh enough to worry. Without another word, the team pressed on, their senses heightened. The jungle seemed alive with movement now, every sound amplified in their minds. It wasn't long before they encountered their first real testapack of razor-winged creatures darting between the trees, their high-pitched shrieks piercing the air. Stay close, Leora ordered, firing a warning shot into the sky. Creatures scattered briefly but quickly regrouped. Circling overhead like vultures, Alex grabbed a fallen branch and swung it wildly, driving off one of the creatures that swooped too close. These things are persistent, he warned. Best to keep moving. The team fought their way through the swarm, relying on coordination and precision to fend off the relentless attackers. By the time they reached safer ground, everyone was breathing heavily, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Mira clutched her side, wincing from a shallow cut on her arm, but she forced a smile when Alex checked on her. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Yeah, thanks to you. Alex shrugged. Just doing my part. As the day wore on, the jungle continued to test them. Yet with each challenge, the bond between Alex and the Varnock Vanguard grew stronger. They weren't just strangers anymore, they were allies, united by a shared goal and a mutual respect forged in the crucible of Epsilon's unforgiving landscape. And though none of them knew what lay ahead, they faced it together, ready for whatever the planet threw their way. Document. Part 4. The Varnock Vanguard and Alex trudged through the jungle, their pace slower now after the chaos of the swarm attack. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind exhaustion and a lingering sense of unease. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if Epsilon 7 itself was trying to drag them down. The glowing crystals they had risked so much to find remained in Alex's pack, their faint hum a constant reminder of the danger they carried. As they walked, Mirasolus couldn't shake the memory of those insect-like creatures swarming toward them. She glanced at Alex, who was leading the way again, his movements steady despite everything they'd been through. "Do you think there are more of those things out there?" she asked quietly. "Probably," Alex replied without looking back. His tone was matter-of-fact, but there was a tension in his voice that betrayed his own uncertainty. "This planet has a habit of throwing surprises at you when you least expect it." Mira shivered, clutching her rifle tighter. "I don't know how you've survived here for so long. It feels like every corner holds something worse than the last." Alex chuckled dryly. "It does get worse," he admitted. "But you learn to adapt. Fear keeps you alive. It sharpens your instincts. Just don't let it paralyze you." Leora Kane listened to their conversation from a few steps ahead, her mind working through the implications of what they had discovered. The minerals were unlike anything she had seen before, their energy readings off the charts. But they weren't natural. Alex had been right about that. Someone or something had created them. The question was why, and what purpose they served. "We need answers," Leora said aloud, stopping to address the group. "These minerals didn't form on their own. There's technology involved here, advanced technology. If we can figure out where it came from, we might understand why this planet is so dangerous." Jorak Ven frowned, his mandibles clicking irritably. "You think there's some kind of facility nearby? Something left behind by whoever made these things?" "It's possible," Leora replied. "If we're lucky, it might still be operational, or at least intact enough to give us clues." Alex, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "There's a place," he said slowly. "A ruin buried deep in the jungle. I stumbled across it once, years ago. Didn't go inside. It looked unstable. But if anyone built something on this planet, that's probably where you'll find it." Leora turned to him, her expression serious. "Can you take us there?" Alex hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the dense foliage around them. He remembered the ruins vividly, the crumbling walls covered in strange symbols, the air thick with an unnatural stillness. Something about the place had felt wrong, almost alive. But if it held answers, maybe it was worth the risk. "I can," Alex said finally. "But don't say I didn't warn you. That place isn't safe." "Nothing on this planet is," Rinkael muttered, adjusting the strap of his weapon. "Let's just hope whatever's waiting for us isn't worse than what we've already faced." With a renewed sense of purpose, the team pressed onward, following Alex deeper into the jungle. The terrain grew rougher, the ground uneven and littered with jagged rocks. Strange plants with thorny vines blocked their path, forcing them to cut through with knives and plasma blades. The temperature dropped slightly, and a cold mist began to rise from the forest floor, muffling their footsteps and making visibility even worse. After hours of grueling travel, they reached the edge of a massive clearing. In the center stood the ruins, ancient structures half buried in the earth, their stone surfaces cracked and overgrown with moss. Towering arches leaned precariously, and broken columns lay scattered like fallen soldiers. Symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly, pulsating in rhythm with the crystals in Alex's pack. "This is it," Alex said softly, his voice tinged with awe and unease. "The ruins." The team approached cautiously, their weapons drawn. As they stepped closer, the air seemed to grow heavier, pressing against their chests like an invisible weight. Mira shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. "It feels wrong," she whispered. "It does," Leora agreed, her sharp eyes scanning the area. "Stay alert. We don't know what's inside." They entered through a large doorway, its frame adorned with intricate carvings. Inside, the ruins were eerily silent, the only sound the soft crunch of their boots on the dusty floor. The walls were lined with more glowing symbols, their patterns complex and unfamiliar. Dust hung in the air, catching the dim light filtering through cracks in the ceiling. Mira paused to examine one of the symbols. her brow furrowing. These look like writing, she said. You think they're instructions or warnings? It could be both, Alex replied, studying the markings. Something about them stirred a memory deep within him, though he couldn't quite place. He shook his head, focusing on the task at hand. As they moved deeper into the ruins, they came across a massive chamber filled with strange machinery. Panels lined the walls, their surfaces covered in buttons and levers marked with the same glowing symbols. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline object similar to the minerals they had collected earlier, but larger. Its glow brighter and more intense. What is that thing? Rin asked, his voice low. No idea, Leora said, stepping closer to inspect it. What? But it's definitely connected to the minerals. Maybe it's some kind of generator or control device. Before she could touch it, Alex grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Careful, he warned. Remember what I told you about the minerals? They react badly to energy fields. This thing could be 10 times worse. Leora nodded, releasing a slow breath. You're right, we need to proceed carefully. Jorok, meanwhile, was examining one of the panels, his fingers tracing the symbols. If we can decipher these, we might be able to activate the system, he said, assuming it still works.
Ow!
Or trigger another swarm of monsters, Alex muttered under his breath. No one disagreed. Mira wandered over to a section of the wall covered in frescoes, depicting scenes of alien figures performing rituals around the crystalline object. Her eyes widened as she studied one particular image, a humanoid figure missing an arm standing before the glowing crystal. She turned to Alex, her expression puzzled. Does this look familiar to you? Alex froze, his blood running cold. He stepped closer, staring at the fresco. The figure bore an uncanny resemblance to him, down to the scars on its face and the crude prosthetic tool strapped to its side. Beneath the image, a series of symbols matched the ones tattooed on his own skin. What the hell? Alex whispered, tracing the marks on his arm. Memories flashed in his mind, fragmented images of a laboratory, voices speaking in languages he didn't understand, pain searing through his body. He staggered back, clutching his head. Alex, Mira called, rushing to his side. Wrong? I don't know, Alex stammered, his breathing ragged. These symbols, they're on me. I've had them since I woke up after the crash. I thought they were random, but they're coordinates, Mira realized suddenly, pointing to the fresco. Look, they match the pattern on your arm. Leora joined them, her expression grim. That means you were part of whatever happened here, she said. Maybe not willingly, but you were involved. Alex sank to the ground, overwhelmed by the revelation. Why would someone do this to me? He asked, his voice barely audible. Why would they mark me like this? No one had an answer. The silence was broken by a low hum emanating from the crystalline object in the center of the room. The glow intensified, bathing the chamber in an eerie light. The symbols on the walls began to pulse faster, their rhythm matching the beat of the hum. We need to leave, Jorok said urgently, backing away from the pedestal. Now, but it was too late. The ground beneath him trembled violently, and sections of the ceiling began to collapse. Dust and debris rained down as the machinery roared to life, sparks flying from damaged panels. A loud mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in a language none of them understood. Out, Laura shouted, grabbing Alex and pulling him to his feet. The team sprinted toward the exit, dodging falling rocks and bursts of energy. Behind them, the crystalline object shattered, releasing a wave of force that knocked them off their feet. When the dust settled, they found themselves outside the ruins, coughing and covered in dirt. The structure groaned ominously, its walls cracking further as it began to sink into the earth. Whatever secrets it had held were lost forever, or so they hoped. Mira helped Alex stand, her expression filled with concern. Are you okay? She asked. He nodded weakly, still shaken. Yeah, thanks to you. Leora surveyed the ruins, her jaw tight. We got out alive, but we're no closer to understanding what's going on here. Those symbols, the crystals. The ruins, they're all connected. And somehow, Alex is tied to it all. We'll figure it out, Myra said firmly, though her voice wavered slightly. We have to. For now, survival was their priority. But as they regrouped and prepared to move on, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the planet wasn't done with them yet, and neither was the truth about his past. Document Part 5. The Varnock Vanguard and Alex retreated from the ruins, putting as much distance between themselves and the collapsing structure as possible. The jungle seemed darker now, the oppressive shadows closing in around them like a living thing. Each step was heavy, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of unanswered questions. The symbols etched into Alex's arm, the glowing crystals, the strange machinery, everything pointed to a mystery far greater than they had anticipated as they walked. Mira Solis kept glancing at Alex. His face was pale, his jaw clenched tightly as if he were wrestling with something inside himself. She wanted to say something, to offer comfort, but she didn't know where to start. Finally, she broke the silence. "Do you remember anything about those symbols?" she asked softly. "Anything at all?" Alex shook his head, his voice barely, above a whisper, just flashes, like dreams that don't make sense. He paused, rubbing the tattoos on his arm absently. "I thought I was just a survivor, a guy trying to stay alive. But now, I don't know who I am anymore." Mira frowned, her heart aching for him. "You're still Alex," she said firmly. "Whatever happened before, it doesn't change who you are now." He gave her a small, grateful smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Thanks, kid," he said. "But I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this. Something I'm supposed to remember." Leora Kane overheard their conversation and slowed her pace to join them. "We'll figure it out," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "Those symbols mean something, and we'll find out what. For now, focus on staying alive. That's the most important thing." Alex nodded, though doubt lingered in his expression. They pressed onward, navigating through the dense jungle as night began to fall. The air grew colder, and the sounds of the forest shifted from chirps and rustles to low growls and distant howls. Every noise put them on edge, their weapons drawn and ready. They eventually reached a small clearing where they decided to set up camp for the night. The ground was uneven, but it offered some visibility, making it easier to spot potential threats. As Rin Kale and Jorak Ven gathered firewood, Leora pulled out her scanner. Studying the data they had collected from the ruins, the readings were chaotic, filled with energy spikes and anomalies that defied explanation. "These minerals aren't just synthetic," she muttered, scrolling through the information. "They're part of a network, like nodes in a system." "System for what?" Jorak asked, tossing a log onto the growing fire. "Energy storage? Weapons? Communication?" "I don't know yet," Leora admitted. "But whatever it is, it's tied to this planetan too, Alex." At the mention of his name, Alex looked up from where he sat by the fire. "You think I'm part of this system?" he asked, his tone bitter. "Like I'm some kind of experiment?" "Possible," Leora replied honestly. "The symbols on your arm match the ones in the ruins. And the fresco showed someone who looked like you interacting with that crystal. It's too much of a coincidence." "Great," Alex muttered, running a hand through his hair. "So I'm either a lab rat or a walking keycard. Either way, it's not exactly comforting," before anyone could respond. A sudden rustling in the bushes caught their attention. Everyone froze, weapons raised as a pair of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness. Slowly, a creature stepped into the light acrylion, smaller than the one they had encountered earlier, but no less dangerous. Its scales shimmered faintly, reflecting the glow of the fire. "Not again." Mira groaned, gripping her rifle tightly. "Stay calm," Leora ordered, her voice steady. "Don't provoke it unless it attacks." The Krillian sniffed the air, its black eyes locking onto Alex. It let out a low growl, its tails twitching menacingly. For a moment, it seemed like it might charge, but then it turned its attention to the fire instead. With a swift motion, it knocked over the burning logs, scattering embers across the clearing. "Why does it keep doing that?" Mira asked, confusion. "Mixing with fear, it hates light," Alex explained, standing up slowly. "Fire scares it, but it won't leave until it feels safe." "Then we give it what it wants," Leora said, signaling the team to back away. "Let the fire die out. We'll deal with it later." Reluctantly, they moved away from the flames, watching as the Krillian slunk back into the shadows. Once it was gone, the jungle fell silent again, the tension lingering in the air, with the fire extinguished. The team settled in for the night, taking turns keeping watch. Alex volunteered for the first shift, sitting alone at the edge of the clearing. Despite his tough exterior, he couldn't shake the feeling that the jungle was watching him, not just the creatures, but something deeper, something ancient. He traced the symbols on his arm again, trying to piece together the fragments of memory floating in his mind. Hours passed, and eventually, Mira came to relieve him. She found him staring into the darkness, his expression troubled. "You should get some rest," she said gently. "You've done enough today." Alex shook his head. "Can't sleep," he admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see those ruins." Hear that voice? Mira sat down beside him, her presence offering quiet support. "What do you think it means?" she asked. "The voice, I mean." "I don't know," Alex replied. Sounded commanding, like it was giving orders. Or warnings. Warnings about what? "That's the problem," Alex said, his voice tinged with frustration. "I don't understand any of it, but I have a feeling it's connected to why I'm here and why this planet keeps throwing everything it has at us." Mira hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, she said, "Maybe you're not supposed to figure it out alone. Maybe we're meant to help you." Alex glanced at her, surprised by her words. "You'd do that? Even after everything?" "Of course," Mira said without hesitation. "You saved my life back there. Even if you hadn't, you're part of the team now. Whatever happens next, we're in this together." Her sincerity brought a lump to Alex's throat. For years he had been alone, fighting for survival in a hostile world. The idea of having allies, friends, was almost foreign to him. But as he looked at Mira, he realized she was right. He wasn't alone anymore. By morning, the jungle was alive with sound once again. The team packed up their gear and prepared to move out, their spirits slightly lifted despite the challenges ahead. Leora consulted her map, plotting a course toward another set of coordinates based on the symbols Alex had shown them. According to the data, these new coordinates corresponded to a location deep within the heart of Epsilon Savannah Place that might hold its answers to the planet's secrets. As they ventured further into the jungle, the terrain became increasingly treacherous. Thick vines blocked their path, forcing them to cut through with knives and plasma blades. Pools of quicksand-like mud dotted the ground, requiring careful navigation to avoid sinking. At one point, they had to cross a narrow ravine using a fallen tree as a makeshift bridge, the drop below disappearing into shadow. Despite the obstacles, the team worked together seamlessly, their bond growing stronger with each challenge. Alex continued to lead the way, his knowledge of the planet proving invaluable. Whenever they encountered predators or environmental hazards, he guided them through with a mix of clever tactics and sheer determination. Late in the afternoon, they reached a massive cliffside overlooking a sprawling valley. In the distance, nestled among jagged rocks and twisted trees, stood another structure, this one larger and more intact than the ruins they had visited before. Its walls gleamed faintly in the sunlight, covered in the same glowing symbols. "There," Leora said, pointing to the structure. "That must be it." Alex stared at the building, a mixture of dread and curiosity twisting in his gut. "If the last place nearly killed us, what makes you think this one will be any different?" he asked. "We don't," Leora replied bluntly. "But we don't have a choice. If we want answers, we have to take the risk." The team descended into the valley, their progress slow and cautious. As they approached the structure, they noticed something unusual. The ground around it was barren, devoid of plant life. The air felt colder, heavier, as if the very atmosphere was being drained away. "This place gives me the creeps," Rin muttered, tightening his grip on his weapon. "You're not alone," Alex agreed, his voice tense. "Something about this feels wrong." They entered the structure through a massive doorway, its frame adorned with intricate carvings similar to those in the previous ruins. Inside, the air was thick with an unnatural stillness, the only sound the soft echo of their footsteps. Walls were lined with panels and screens, many of them cracked or darkened with age. In the center of the room stood another pedestal, identical to the one they had seen before. But this time, the crystalline object atop the pedestal was intact, its glow pulsating rhythmically. As they approached, the symbols on Alex's arm began to burn, sending waves of pain shooting through his body. He staggered back, clutching his arm as the others rushed to his side. "What's happening?" Mira asked, her voice filled with panic. "The symbols." Alex gasped, his vision blurring. "They're reacting to the crystal." Leora studied the pedestal, her expression grim. "This isn't just a machine," she said. "It's alive, or at least it thinks it is." Before anyone could react, the crystal emitted a sharp burst of light, engulfing the room in brilliance. When the light faded, Alex was on his knees, breathing heavily. The symbols on his arm glowed faintly, matching the rhythm of the crystal. "Document, Part 6, the voice echoed through the chamber, resonating in a way that made it impossible to tell where it came from. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight, as if every word was etched into the air itself. Alex Carter knelt on the floor, his hand clutching his arm where the glowing symbols burned with an intensity that seemed to sear straight through his skin. His breaths came in shallow gasps, and his mind raced to process what he had just heard. "Key, Mira Solis," repeated, her voice trembling. "What does that mean? A key to what?" The keeper's response was calm, almost soothing. But there was an undercurrent of authority that silenced any further questions. "The key unlocks what has been sealed," it said. "For centuries, this world has waited. And now you have. Come." Alex shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't understand. I'm nobody. It's just a guy who got stranded here." "You're more than you know," the keeper replied. Its tone shifted slightly, becoming warmer, almost compassionate. "Your presence here is no accident. You were chosen. Chosen by who?" Alex demanded, anger creeping into his voice. "And for what?" Before the keeper could answer, the crystalline object on the pedestal pulsed brighter, casting sharp shadows across the room. The glow spread outward, illuminating panels along the walls that had been dark moments before. Symbols lit up in sequence, forming patterns that seemed to flow like liquid light. Leora Kane stepped forward cautiously, her sharp eyes scanning the displays. "This isn't just a message," she said, her voice low. "It's a system, a network. Whatever this place is, it's controlling something big."
Right.
Ven frowned, his mandibles twitching irritably. "Controlling what?" "The planet, those monsters outside." "Us. All of the above," Alex muttered bitterly. He looked up at the keeper, or at least, where he thought the voice was coming from. "If you're so smart, why don't you explain it to us? What exactly am I supposed to unlock?" The keeper paused, as if considering its next words carefully. "Epsilon 7 is a prison," it said finally. "A containment system designed to hold forces beyond your comprehension. Long ago, beings far greater than yourselves created this world to trap entities that threatened existence itself. But the seal is weakening. If it breaks, the consequences will be catastrophic. And I'm supposed to stop that?" Alex asked incredulously. "How?" "I don't even know how I got here." "The answers lie within you," the keeper replied cryptically. "The markings on your arm are coordinates, not just physical locations, but pathways in time and memory. Follow them, and you will uncover the truth." Mira exchanged a worried glance with Leora. "This sounds insane," she whispered. "Are we really trusting a disembodied voice?" "We don't have much choice," Leora said quietly. She turned back to Alex, her expression. "Serious? Can you access these memories? Use the symbols to guide us?" Alex hesitated, staring at the glowing marks on his arm. They pulsed in sync with the crystal, as if urging him to act. Slowly he nodded. "I'll try," he said, "but I can't promise anything." As Alex focused on the symbols, the room began to change. The panels on the walls flickered, projecting images into the air scenes of alien landscapes, towering structures, and strange creatures unlike anything they had seen before. Among the projections, one image stood out, a map of Epsilon 7, marked with several points glowing brightly. These must be the locations, Leora said, pointing to the map. We need to visit them in order, assuming we survive long enough. To get there, Jirak muttered, glancing warily at the entrance. Outside, the jungle remained eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Before they could make a plan, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the crystalline object emitted a high-pitched whine. The keepers. Voice returned, urgent this time. You must hurry. The breach begins. What breach? Alex shouted, struggling to his feet. What are you talking about? The seal is breaking, the keeper explained. Entities trapped within are awakening. If they escape, all life on this planet and beyond will perish. Rinkale cursed under his breath, gripping his weapon tightly. Great, so we're fighting cosmic horrors now. It's fantastic. We can't fight them, Leora said sharply. Not directly. Our only chance is to follow the map and restore the seal. Stick together and stay alert. With no time to waste, the team prepared to leave the structure. As they exited, the jungle greeted them with renewed hostility. The air felt heavier, charged with electricity, and the plants around them seemed to writhe as if alive. Strange noises echoed through the trees' low growls, hissing whispers, and the occasional screech that sent chills down their spines. Their first destination was a location marked on the map near a riverbank. The journey there was grueling, the jungle actively resisting their progress. Vines lashed out like whips, forcing them to cut their way through. Sinkholes opened unexpectedly, swallowing large sections of the forest floor. At one point, a swarm of razor-winged creatures descended upon them, forcing the team to take cover beneath a rocky overhang until the threat passed. Despite the constant danger, Alex pressed on, driven by a growing sense of purpose. Each step brought flashes of memory images of laboratories, scientists in protective suits, and machines humming with energy. The symbols on his arm throbbed painfully, guiding him forward like a compass. When they finally reached the riverbank, they found another ruin hidden beneath layers of moss and roots. This one was smaller than the previous structures, its walls cracked and crumbling. The center of the clearing stood a pedestal similar to the one in the last chamber, though this one lacked a crystal. Instead, a hollow indentation matched the shape of the minerals they had collected earlier. Leora examined the pedestal closely, her brow furrowing. This must be part of the seal, she said. We need to insert the crystals. But what happens when we do? Mira asked nervously. Will it fix the breach? Should stabilize the area, Leora replied, at least temporarily. But we won't know for sure until we try. As Alex handed over the glowing crystals, the team formed a defensive perimeter, weapons drawn. The jungle around them seemed unnaturally still, as if waiting for something to happen. When Leora placed the final crystal into the indentation, the pedestal roared to life, emitting a burst of light that illuminated the entire clearing. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, a deep rumble shook the ground, and the symbols on Alex's arm flared brightly. The air shimmered, and a massive form materialized before them. A creature unlike anything they had ever seen. Its body was a writhing mass of tendrils and claws, its eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. It let out a deafening roar, shaking the trees around them. Everyone fall back, Leora shouted, raising her plasma blade. The team opened fire, their shots lighting up the gloom as they fought to hold off the monstrous entity. But for every wound they inflicted, the creature healed instantly, its form shifting and regenerating. We can't beat it, Jorak yelled, firing wildly. It's too strong. Alex gritted his teeth, desperation fueling his determination. Remembered the keeper's words. The key unlocks what has been sealed, summoning every ounce of courage. Stepped forward, ignoring the protests of his teammates. Alex, what are you doing? Mira cried, panic rising in her voice. I'm the key, Alex said simply. Let's see if that means anything. He reached out with his remaining hand, placing it against the pedestal. The symbols on his arm blazed with light, and a surge of energy shot through him, connecting him to the structure. The pedestal hummed louder, vibrating with power as the creature recoiled, its form destabilizing. Keep firing, Leora ordered, realizing what Alex was trying to do. The team poured everything they had into the attack, buying Alex precious seconds to channel the energy. With a final cry of effort, Alex pushed all his strength into the connection. The pedestal erupted in a blinding flash of light, engulfing the creature in a wave of pure energy. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Then, with a deafening crack, the creature dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind only silence. The team collapsed to the ground, exhausted but alive. Alex sank to his knees, his body trembling from the strain. The symbols on his arm dimmed, returning to their usual faint glow. "What just happened?" Mira asked, her voice barely audible. "We stopped it," Leora said, her tone filled with awe. "For now." Alex stared at his arm, his expression unreadable. "It's not over," he said quietly. "That thing was just a fragment. There are more out there." Leora nodded grimly. "Then we keep moving, one step at a time." As they regrouped and prepared to continue their journey, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest challenges were yet to come. But for the first time since waking up alone on Epsilon 7, he felt a spark of hope not just for himself, but for the people standing beside him. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together.